Good evening, my dear viewers. Today I am going to present a beautiful sonnet written by P.B.Shelley, a romantic poet. The poem Ozymandias, that is my favorite poem, and I like so much about this poem's glory and the interpretation and inbuilt meaning. So, this poem, which is going to be presented before you, which is uh, written by P.B.Shelley, is a sonnet. Ozymandias is a poem which is sonnet. I don't want to explain about what is sonnet here. In another class, I will be able to explain to you what is the meaning of sonnet and the types of sonnet, etc. This poem, which is going to be discussed here, is coming in class 10 English Communicative, and students who are finding difficult to understand the meaning of this particular poem, and teachers who are wavering in their interpretation, this may be of great help. Since I like this poem so much, I used to explain in detail to the students, and the students used to give me very good attention when I used to explain this poem, Ozymandias. In this poem, the poet explains and describes about a man who met a traveler from an antique land. So here the word antique land is referring to ancient land, and the ancient land is Egypt. So we are traveling to Egypt here. So at the beginning of this poem itself, we hear about I met a traveler from an antique land. So the poet is speaking about a man whom he met and who told him about an antique land where something extraordinary took place. So he says that who said certain things about something that the traveler had seen in that particular place. What is that? So here in this poem he speaks about something very strange, something that could be seen in the middle of the desert or the lone sand. What is that? He says about two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert, and near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies. So the poet is listening to the traveler who said about the antique land where the traveler happened to see as he was traveling in the ancient Egypt desert. He happened to see two vast and trunkless legs of stone. Very interesting interpretation is given here. Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. That is reflecting about the the Pharaoh of Egypt, Ramesses II, who is actually described as King Ozymandias, in whose time the glory and the name and the fame of the ancient Egypt rose to the highest extent, and it brought glory to the entire Egyptian nation. And if you look at the poem, you will say, the traveler happened to see two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. What does it mean? It means to say he happened to see two big and trunkless legs of stone stand in the middle of the desert. And near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies. So it speaks all about Ozymandias, who was the king of kings, whose face, a shattered visage of face. That means the face was not very clear and it is half sunk in the desert, and it had two vast trunkless legs of stone. That means the upper part is not there, and the, we can say, below the knee some things were seen, and it was shattered. That means it is not in a very good condition. So whose front? Again, what is this front? Front is referring to the forehead, and it is the front was wrinkled. That means had a lot of lines, and it did not have a proper smoothness. You can say this is very smooth, but if it is wrinkled, you will see the lines, and this is actually known as the frown. So he says the shattered visage which is laying on the sand had actually wrinkled, okay, whose frown and wrinkled lips. So here the lips were actually, a simple way we can say, cracked, and it had no smoothness. And then why it is cracked? It had a different interpretation. What is that? It is because of the sneer of cold command. That means the commands that he had given when he was alive as a king had been very hard and harsh to the people, and it had pierced the heart of the people, and it was sneering. That means mocking, insulting the people, means the commoners, the common people. So the traveler is interpreting, or traveler is describing about the two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, not anywhere else, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and a sneer of cold command. So it is referring to the person's personality. He was not a man of active command. He was a man of cold command, which is referring to similar to mocking and insulting and giving real fear to the people of the area. And again, the poet recalls what the traveler said. He says, tell that its sculpture, well, those passions read, which means to say, the man who sculptured the statue of King Ozymandias has understood very well about the passions of the King of Kings. That means King Ozymandias. And so the sculpture work of the artist or the sculpture has given a complete picture of the personality of King Ozymandias there and then. So while King Ozymandias was alive, the sculpture was not able to speak it out, but after his death, he has given a complete picture and complete meaning of the way King Ozymandias was living as a glorious king. That is why he says only the sculpture was able to read the passions of the king, and he described the passions when he sculptured the statue of King Ozymandias, which yet survive, which means till today it is surviving, and stamped on these lifeless things. That means on this statue which is lifeless and remains all these details about the king. And then remember one thing, during the time or the reign of King Ozymandias, the glory and the name and fame of the kingdom had been brought up. And while he was trying to develop the glory of the kingdom, he forgot about the life of the people. And that is what we are going to see. Nothing is permanent in this world. He brought glory, fame, name, but those things are not going to be permanent. They are only relative. As long as you live on this earth, these things will survive. But the moment you are dead and gone, they are also going to die along with you. And that is the message which is going to be given through this poet P.B.Shelley. So he says, which yet survives, stamped on these lifeless things. What is that? The hand that mocked them. So the king was not so clean in his dealing with the people. There were a lot of mockings. And also, he was also very kind, the heart that fed them. So both sides are there for the king. On one side, he was very, very cruel, and on this other side, he was very, very kind. We have to study that particular part. And on the pedestal, these words appear. This is what the traveler told to the poet. He says, what is that? On the pedestal. Pedestal is referring to the place on which the statue is erected. And on this, it is written like this. These words appear. What is that? My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look at my works, you mighty, and despair. What is the meaning of that one? My name is Ozymandias. He declares himself as the King of Kings. And he challenges, look upon my works, which means he is challenging his own works, his own developments. And that's what I said. The glory and the name and the fame which he brought to the people, to the kingdom of his own kingdom. He speaks about that. Look upon my works. Okay. And you mighty and despair, which means to say that you can look upon my work and you will never be able to conquer my works and the way that I have done the work. You are very great, but you will never be able to compete. You will never be able to challenge me in bringing greatness to my kingdom. And if you try to do so, you will go in despair. That is the meaning here. And he says, nothing besides remains. What is the meaning of that one? It means to say, nothing will remain. And what I am telling and what I am doing, which is the greatest thing, will remain. Nothing else will remain. And the poet says, around the decay of that colossal rack, which means to say that colossal rack is referring to the great damage that is done to the statue of the king Ozymandias. Around that decay, boundless and bare, the lone and level sand stretched far away. What remains there? Nothing but only bare land, sand, nothing else. So we can see the man who brought glory and fame and name and the kingdom, and who was standing in the middle of the city, now stands in the middle of the desert. And around him there is only layer of sand, desert, and it is stretching far away. No people, no buildings, no glory, nothing remains, which is referring to non permanence of a person's name and fame. So, my dear students, you must remember when you are going through this poem, nothing remains in this world absolute, permanent, but everything is relative. As long as you live on this earth, you can bring about certain things. Once you are dead and gone, if it is not for the public, if it is for the personal glorification, it will die. It will never be permanent. That is the message given through this poem uh, given by P.B. Shelley. I hope you have understood certain important points through this poem. I hope you will come across more and more things as you reflect. Have a nice day.